All right. Good afternoon, people. I am here to present my final project presentation. I do have my two friends here, Jalen and Jaquel. The reason I chose these two because I wanted an outside opinion, and also I wanted it to be um, anonymous in the sense of nobody has never seen the website. So that's why I chose these two as my community. All right, so let's get started. So I'm about to share my screen here, and then we will go over the website. All right, so as we get started here, as you can see, I have the title, Welcome to my website, and I have this quote here by B.B. King, which is education is the one thing that no one can take away from you. So I chose this quote because it's actually my screensaver on my phone, and that always keeps me motivated when I'm down and kind of want to give up on my endeavors. Not give up, but when I feel discouraged in a sense, I always look at that quote and I pretty much, kind of get recharged and I recalibrate my thoughts and I continue to push forward in life. So I feel like this quote is a very inspirational one, and it can be applied to any sector of the world, whether it's education, because education goes beyond a textbook, I feel. So, like I said, I always take this quote to heart, and I like to keep it on the forefront. And I chose this picture because it's different shades of colors, which represents the world, is how we see it. We're not one race, one creed. We're all a multitude of different components, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian descent, etc. So I wanted just to show a variety of skin tones, and the scale is equal because I wanted the world to be, I want us to be seen as equal, not one is superior over the other. So that was the mindset of thinking behind choosing that background. All right, so let's get started with the tabs here. So I'm going to click about. This is my professional introduction. The professor wanted us to choose a picture that represents us, and I feel like this picture here represents me um, on a day when I'm feeling the best. I'm not even gonna tell you no lie. This is the most natural smile that I've ever been able to replicate. And I took that picture about 3 times just to let y'all know. So this is as natural as it's going to get. And I chose this picture. And if you go down here, I kind of go into detail. I'm pursuing my master's in multicultural education with the concentration on social justice, hence the picture on my homepage. And I kind of wanted to just go into detail about that a little bit. I had no plans on being a teacher, an educator, professor in no way, shape, or form up until last year, which is kind of right before the pandemic. I want to say around February. I just had an epiphany that, man, I really want to reach kids and I want to make an impact on kids, but I just didn't know how. I've always had a connection to, helping people out, connecting with them on different levels, whether it be, sports, whether it be education, whether it be anything. I feel like I'm a very relatable person. So that was the mindset of me transitioning from corporate America over to education. So um, I had already changed my grad program from human resource management over to education. Like I said, long before I even wanted to become a teacher, because I just felt like I was going to head down that road anyway. So again, it just goes into detail, why I became an educator and why I decided to leave corporate America. I do currently teach fifth grade social studies. This is my first year teaching. It has been eye opening, also liberating, also um, a bit stressful in the sense of I'm a perfectionist in the sense that I like to know all of what I'm doing. And I kind of went in blind, not knowing what to expect. So being a first year teacher, this has really opened my eyes up to teachers in general. I mean, I've always had respect for educators around, but being one definitely showed me, being on the other side, you have to really be mindful and thoughtful of the kids you're impacting. So, I kind of go into detail about that, and what was the factors of me switching over to education, and just, kind of my upbringing growing up. I had a mixture of male and female teachers. Growing up, when I moved here to Houston, I only seen majority. I only had female teachers. and they wasn't a person of color. So I kind of wanted to change that because I don't see a lot of black male teachers. I really, really don't. And I feel like it's important to have representation in all sectors of this society. So that really was a driving force in becoming a teacher for sure, because I wanted to make that change, at least in my thinking, I can make a change. Um, and I talk about my time growing up with technology because we were heavily technology based the first, second, and third 9 weeks because I was teaching in person and also teaching virtual kids. Now I had no issue with teaching them virtual because I was familiar with Zoom, I was familiar with technology, but I can definitely see the impact versus them being virtual and when they were in person. They were much more engaged. They were much more, enthusiastic. And as we all know, it's pretty hard to be to keep a 10-year-old's mind, you know, excited about school for 5, 6 hours looking at a computer screen. By hour 1 or 2, they're checked out. So I didn't have any issue with it, but the other teachers on my team definitely was struggling in a sense of they were more traditional teachers, and I am more of a, I roll with the punches, and they didn't really grow up on technology because they're a little bit older than me. Well, they're a lot older, but they are not tech savvy, should I say that? They they really struggled, and I had to explain a lot of simple things to them, not in the sense of they should have known this, but I feel like when you have been teaching for 10, 20 years, you don't necessarily use technology. All of that stuff was new for them. So I definitely sympathize with that. And like I said, I use my background working at Apple and how I used to help people, set up their phones, their laptops, their iPads, and just connect with them in that way. And like I said, my team is amazing. I have nothing. They have really showed me a lot in this first year as being a teacher, the ropes and how to do things. Because again, they know way more than I ever will probably know moving forward as I transition and become a future educator as we go on. All right, so that's a little bit more about me. So let's go ahead on over to the blog tab. All right, so anytime we had to add something to our website, we had to create a blog about it, and I have about 7 here, well, 6. And I had to get feedback from our community. Some was from you guys, some was from, people that I sent the survey out to, and really anybody who wanted to do it. We had to create a blog, and, we had to really showcase that we had people that was really engaged with what we were talking about. So this right here was really interesting because I had never created a blog a day in my life. So I didn't honestly know what what I was getting myself into. But like I said, it was real fun. It was eye opening, and also gave me insight on people who are in the blog and social media industry heavily, that they really go through a lot. So I'll kind of come back to this as we go through the unit deliverables. But this is going to be our focus here as well as I go through the unit deliverables. Okay. So let's go ahead on. We're going to start with, we have 6 here. I'm only going to go through about 3 of them because I don't want to hold you guys up too long. So let's start with 2. This one here was about a survey. So we had to create a survey, and my survey was centered around technology and how and why, you know, why don't the teachers like to use technology, and is it because of is it a lack of training, is it lack of not being tech savvy, is it just, do they feel like the students would kind of abuse it? Like I really wanted to know about, and I sent this to a couple of teachers, and they really was honest and thoughtful in their responses, and um I really took what they said into consideration in figuring out why that they were shying away from technology instead of embracing it, because the kids love it in my class, but I can definitely understand the mindset of, I'm not used to that, I'm not doing it, so if it's not broke, why fix it? So I definitely understand that mindset. And this is pretty much, I had to reflect on it, why I chose SurveyMonkey as my on my blog website. And I got some, we had to get screenshots of our feedback just to show that we had an engaged community. And I had to reflect on the feedback that I got, just giving my honest thoughts on what I've read and what I've just figured out, that technology is subjective in the eyes of those who are using it. So I kind of go into detail about it in my reflective manuscript. And we had a great discussion about that in our Unit 2 video with my classmates, and what we read and in our Horizon reports, because we had to pull from these reports that talked about all sorts of stuff about, technology, education, anything that was pretty much centered around technology and how can we incorporate it into our society and also into education. We read a report about that, and I had to, discuss it with my classmates and also reflect on what did I take from our Unit 2 video. So we had a video for each unit. So this is one of my favorite ones that I wanted to show you guys. So let's go ahead on over to 3, which is another one of my favorite ones. So I had never in life even thought about creating a newsletter. Now I will tell you this. Side note, this class really showed me that a quick fix is not always the way to go, because I had to dedicate a substantial amount of time to put all this together. It didn't take an hour, 2 hours. I worked on this website for maybe 4 or 5 days out the week for maybe an hour or 2. Excuse me. Just adding little things to it, editing little things, because everything won't be perfect the first time I've done it. So I had to kind of go back in and edit some things out, or move some things around. But like I said, I've learned a lot. Now this newsletter was a self-care routine about kids, because I can see the negative effects of the kid when they were virtual and when they came back. They were much more active. They were much more like upbeat. When they were at home, it was like, they were a shadow of themselves. So I always kind of wanted to figure out, because they don't ever tell me everything that they want to. So what I do, I have this thing called survey that I send out every Friday to my kids. It's anonymous. Nobody can see the responses but me. And I ask a couple questions like, how's your week going? Is there anything exciting you want to tell me? And I always incorporate a question about COVID. How do you feel about COVID? And also, is there anything you want to share with me that you haven't told anybody else? And they always say, well, of course. I get some interesting responses from some 10-year-olds, 10 and 11-year-olds. They always say, yeah, I hate COVID, because they don't say hate. They say, I don't like COVID because my grandparents can't come over, or we can't do the things that we did last year, which means before COVID. And a lot of them have said, yeah, I don't like it, but I understand because it protects the world, so they're really thoughtful in their responses. But a lot of them told me that they can't wait till things go back to normal, so they can have fun with their friends and do the things that they used to do, and that made them depressed. They use the word depressed, you know. So I mean, these kids are very, very smart. I will say their vocabulary is extended for sure.
What's the school district that you teach in, real quick?
Spring Branch ISD.
All right.
Yeah, so it's a very great school. I love my school. I love my principal. I love my students. So I try to incorporate this. The survey is every week, every Friday, and this newsletter is really dedicated to self-care routines for students. I do use the Calm app, because they get a kick out of that. We always listen to LeBron James and him talking about how he faces adversity, and it's a series of events that we kind of go throughout the Calm app that kind of keeps them grounded, and they like it. They really do like it. And as I'm doing like research and whatnot, I always see things about like puzzles. Puzzles really stimulates the brain. This is what I read. It stimulates the brain, and it kind of it de-stresses you, from what I read. And they really enjoy the puzzles. Like they lose their mind if I don't have one. Now I didn't have one this week, and they were like, "Oh, when can we get one?" And I'm like, I'm gonna try to find one from one of the other teachers. So that newsletter was really dedicated about self-care and mental health. And I kind of wrote about it here as I do in all of my deliverables, the newsletter and what I felt about it, why I chose that specific program to use. And again, we always talk about it. We always discuss the Horizon reports that we read within our Unit 3 video, and I reflect on that. And I also incorporate the comments. You guys really can't see it because I zoomed it out, but I got some really good feedback, and I really want to see some great detail about how these can be incorporated into other kids, other teachers' classroom, because it's very effective from my standpoint. The survey for sure is hands down the best thing, because sometimes they may not tell me everything, or I can't be a listening ear because I'm teaching, but the survey, they will lay it all out in that survey, and I read through it, when I'm on my lunch break or when I'm at home grading. I just kind of see where their heads at, because that lets me know why they've acted in a different way because of something that happened early in the week, or if they had a bad day. They'll let me know that I had a bad day, and they always say, oh, I'm sorry for whatever. I can't remember. It's so many of them, but
wait. So just to clarify,
yeah.
So the survey and the newsletter are both different strategies that, or like, I guess, strategies you can use in a classroom to kind of engage your students.
So the newsletter is to showcase what you can use in the classroom. So I have the Calm app here.
Okay.
Which is one strategy. I have the survey, which is another, and then I have the puzzle, which is another. So all three of these you can kind of choose from, or add more if you want to, that I use in my classroom. And it really, it gives me insight on where they at in their thinking, and also how can I be of an assist to make them not so stressed out or not so worked up about whatever they got going on. Or if they just want to talk to me, the newsletter is to showcase what I've come up with and what works in my classroom and what other teachers may take from it.
Okay, so the survey, so the students use the survey, but then the newsletter is kind of a connection between you and other educators.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like I'm hoping to be a resource for other teachers, even first year teachers who may not know what to do. This is what I came up with as I progressed throughout my time as a teacher from last year. So yeah, the newsletter is to just showcase what I've come up with, not necessarily what they should do. What they should do is the strategies I've laid out as self-care routines for students.
I see.
Perfect. And again, in the video, we talked about that in the video with my team, and I reflected on that. So if you guys want to check that out, you can just click on the link and it'll bring you straight to the YouTube, and you can hear us talking about it in great detail. All right, so let's go on over, what did I say? 5, I believe. Okay, let's. So this one here it was fun because it's fun because sometimes my kids, they hate reading. And I tell them every time that no matter what job they want to do in this world, they would have to know how to read and read very well. So I wanted to incorporate something, and we have iPads in my district. We always do certain things around every holiday, like whether it be Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Martin Luther King, whatever. And sometimes they like to create collages, and we do have individual iPads that the students do have. And I feel like this would be a great tool to use in your classroom because it kind of does it for you. And I've played around with this, and I even created one that I would use in my classroom as an example. It's called Pick Collage. So I, showcased that to my teacher, and she really loved it. And I had to go into detail, as I do every unit, why I chose Pick Collage, why I think it would be useful in the classroom, and the feedback that I got from it. I feel like the feedback I got was pretty useful. A lot of people, again, I won't say they're afraid, but they are very apprehensive about using technology like that to that extent because of, again, the knowledge about it. And they don't really know how to use it. I did this because I wanted them to be engaged, but I also wanted to make it fun because I know how it is when I know they don't want to read every day. So I kind of mix it up here and there. because some days we do read specifically.
Then you're talking about you and your children, right? Like you and the kids in the class, like y'all read.
Yeah. So I wanted to do the pic collage because the pic collage is not really reading involved. It's just a collage of pictures that they want to choose and they can showcase to their parents or whatever the holiday is or whatever the activity is. That's how that would be useful. So that really broke down exactly why I chose that. And I went into detail in the Unified video in relation to the Horizon Report. And I, again, had to go through and explain why I felt the way and what I took away from the Unified video as well. And again, here's the newsletter in its totality. Like you can kind of go through. It's pretty long. It's not long, but it shows you like what I did and what teachers can do to help their kids. So it's pretty cool. You want to check that out. And the last thing I wanted to check out, let you guys know, was about the podcast that I did about my report. It's pretty cool. It's 49 minutes long. I did not realize that I can talk for that long about that report because it was pretty long. But it was also interesting about higher education and how other higher education systems compared to the US are different in some ways, but they are similar in the others. So that was real fun to do. And I really had a good time discussing that as well. And the last thing before I open the floor for questions, we had to incorporate our resume. Just showcasing what we've done. You know, I got my educational experience. I also got my corporate America experience. Apple has been influential in terms of just using what I've learned while working there and incorporating that into other aspects of when I venture off into other sectors of my career. So I will always cherish that skill that I've learned from there. So yep, this is my website. So I'll let you guys fire off with the questions if you got any.
So your website, this is just kind of to showcase kind of your ideas as an educator, kind of your direction and your values as an educator, or is it because I know it's for the class, but are you going to continue to use it after the class as well?
Yeah, actually, this website is meant to be a catalyst to showcase my work as a professional. So I'm going to switch it up, obviously, as I gain more and more knowledge as far as education. So although it was an assignment or a task in my class, it's meant to be a catalyst to propel me right now and also into the future. So I will definitely keep this around because I did learn a lot. So yeah, I'm going to keep it because that's what her intention was for us to keep it.
I just got a couple quick questions, to fire off. I mean, hey man, the website looks great. How long did it take you to actually like put it together?
So we actually had a couple of choices from different websites to choose from, like Google site. This is called Wix. There was Weebly. It was a whole bunch of them, like maybe 12 we had to choose from, and we had to kind of go through and figure out which one would be aesthetically pleasing to us, and also how can we operate in it. So I would say on average, so this was over 8 weeks.
Okay.
And on average, I maybe spent about maybe 3 or 4 days, maybe an hour to 2 hours a day, just fine tuning little things because it was just a white page with nothing. I had all these specific things, and that was in line with her, Dr. Crawford's requirement. So, over 8 weeks, 2 to 3 hours a week, sometimes more, just depending on how much I have to get done and how much the task requires. So 8 weeks in total to fine tune everything.
Yeah, man, looks good. The reason I asked is because as you're sitting here going over it, I did notice that you have plenty of resources, which is great. It seems like, you try and give your teachers, your peers, plenty of opportunities, to learn, how to incorporate some of what you do into some of their own, like everyday procedures. one thing I did want to ask though, like as a teacher, right? Like I know you just said that you ended up changing, fields, like you had an epiphany, really, right? So you were speaking a lot about the mental capacity of your students, like, hey, like they're very, I would say alert to the world around them. And then you were also speaking about, some of the daily activities that you have with them. I mean, like, I don't know, is this your first year teaching?
It is.
Yeah, no, man. Because I
Yeah.
mean, hey, just going forward, like, do you feel like, you're concerned for the students' mental and like all the activities that you bring to the table? Do you feel like that helps you as a teacher, or like, do you feel like that can help like some of your peers as well?
Um, okay, that's a two-part question. Okay, the first
Yeah, I mean,
part,
hey, answer however you want to. That's the
I'm
reason why I
listening.
was like, hey, it might be
That's a
like a quick
question
two.
question.
No, that is, that's a good question. I do feel like as we transition out of being, as we go beyond COVID and return back to some sense of normalcy, we need to be very mindful that the kids may not be in the same space as they once were, and we need to be just careful on how we approach them in the same way. So, like I said, I don't know all the answers. I just know what worked in my classroom, and what should work in other classrooms, or you can at least give it a try. Um, we should be mindful, but I also feel like just let kids be kids. They're gonna have their days, but that's a part of them finding their way back into society as far as interacting with other people, because a year of their life was gone, in the sense
Yeah,
of we didn't have we had all of our childhood years. We were able to go outside, have fun, talk, be with our friends, and we gained those social skills. But these kids had 1 year taken away from them. So as we let them transition back into society and be the kids that they are, just give them some grace. That's all. I give a lot of grace to my students because I want grace given to me. Um, and I feel like, yes, it was a concern in the beginning, but as we get closer to a more normalcy, should I say, I think they will be okay as long as we are continue to give them grace and let them find their way back as they once were.
yeah. Nah, man. I only hit on that mental piece because, hey, I'm pretty sure as everyone in this group chat or this Zoom call is well aware. I mean, hey, school shootings are no small thing, and I mean, with school coming back into session, I do feel like there's not as much emphasis on the students' mental, capacity as
Yeah.
there should be. So I was just curious to know if you feel like, you focusing a little bit more on that, spectrum or that, area of your
Mhm.
students, or you felt like it helped benefit them more.
It does. It benefits them more, and also it kind of puts me in a mindset on how I should approach them in a sense. Because I don't want to be too direct if they're having a bad day. And the survey lets me know if they're having a bad day, a bad week, if they had a bad day, and if because they honest with me, they'll say, "Oh, Miss Allen, I don't like the way you did this or did that, or I wish you could have did this." Now I will do my best to appease their statements. I may not do it, but I will do my best. It really gives me um, a direction to go when it comes to how they feel. So yeah, I always try to approach them with the same respect that I would give an adult. Although there are kids, they will at some point become adults, and I want them to be as respectful as possible, but also they're learning the way of emotional intelligence is what I call it, and how to handle things. So yeah, it's a learning curve for everybody, me, them, you. So yeah.
All right.
All right. Any more questions? Nope. All right. I appreciate it, fellas. So I'm about to end the Zoom call, and I thank y'all for coming to my final project presentation. Hope you guys enjoy.